12 greatest archaeological discoveries in the most unexpected places that shocked the world. Hello, welcome to the Ancient History Channel. My friend, have you ever wondered how many secrets of humankind are hidden beneath what seems like lifeless layers of earth? For decades, sometimes even centuries, archaeologists have quietly followed every tiny trace, every shard of broken pottery, every moss-covered stone, piecing together a vast picture of humanity's distant past. Each excavation is not merely the act of digging through soil and rock, it is like having a conversation with history itself. Ancient ruins emerge after thousands of years buried underground, and artifacts that appear lifeless begin to tell us stories of our ancestors' beliefs, fears, hopes, and even their life and death struggles. Some discoveries have left the scientific community astonished, such as sacred Buddhist relics carefully hidden for millennia, or treasure hoards whose age far exceeds the imagination of modern humans. There are also traces of war, places once soaked in blood and tears, where only silent fragments remain today, yet they carry with them deeply painful historical legends. Every artifact uncovered is like a precious piece of a puzzle, helping us better understand how our ancestors lived, how they fought to survive, and how human civilization gradually took shape and continued to develop. And you know what? The most fascinating thing about archaeology is this. The deeper we dig and the more we discover, the more we realize how many questions still remain unanswered. So today, are you ready to join ancient history on a journey to uncover these mysteries? The stories behind each discovery are sure to make you see history through an entirely new lens. If you're ready, then right now, let's begin this journey together with our very first exploration. Medieval mummy in a lead coffin reveals the bloody secret of an English knight. Did you know? The world is vast and immense, and there are discoveries that suddenly bring history back to life. Not through books, but through flesh, bones, and unfinished stories. More than 40 years ago, beneath the floor of a ruined church in northern England, archaeologists accidentally uncovered one such secret. In the cold crypt of St. Bees Priory, they discovered a wooden coffin lined with lead. Inside lay the nearly intact body of a medieval man. Yes, you heard that right. Not a dry skeleton, but a body preserved so extraordinarily well that anyone who saw it was left speechless. He became known as the St. Bees Man. The excavation took place in 1981 in Cumbria, a remote region where the wind blows year-round and England's history is as thick as the fog. In addition to the mysterious lead-lined coffin, archaeologists also found the remains of a woman buried nearby. However, unlike the man, all of the woman's soft tissue had completely decomposed over time. This detail led researchers to believe that when they opened the lead coffin, they would find only bones. But instead, what lay before them was a tightly wrapped body, its skin and physical form still clearly visible after hundreds of years. The moment must have been both chilling and overwhelming. The reason for this remarkable preservation lay in the lead lining of the coffin itself. Since medieval times, lead had been used to prevent air and bacteria from reaching the body. This nearly sterile environment turned the man into a natural mummy, allowing him to rest undisturbed for centuries. Scientific analysis determined that the man was buried sometime between 1290 and 1500. He died at around 40 years of age, give or take a few years. Even more haunting, however, were the injuries found on his body. Multiple broken ribs, a shattered jaw, and punctured lungs. These wounds indicate that he had endured extreme violence, very likely during a battle or a brutal assault. The final cause of death was identified as air and blood filling the chest cavity, a condition that would have caused a rapid and painful death. At first, the man's identity was a major mystery. Such an elaborate burial would not have been intended for an ordinary person, yet no historical records clearly identified who he was. Nevertheless, the most widely accepted theory among researchers is that he was Sir Anthony de Lucy, an English knight. Historical records state that Sir Anthony de Lucy died in 1368 in what is now Lithuania, during the Northern Crusades. Beginning in the 12th century, Western European Christian kingdoms launched numerous military campaigns aimed at forcing the Baltic, Finnish, and Western Slavic regions to convert to Christianity. Evidence suggests that English forces took part in an attack on the fortress of Kaunas, during which 3 Englishmen were killed. Notably, the injuries recorded for Anthony de Lucy, a shattered jaw and punctured lungs, match strikingly well with those found on the St. Bees man in the lead coffin, making this theory particularly convincing. But what about the woman buried nearby? Her identity is far less clear. Many have speculated that she may have been Anthony de Lucy's wife. However, historical records indicate that his wife later remarried and died in London at over 70 years of age, making it unlikely that she was the woman buried in the crypt. The most plausible theory is that the woman was Maud de Lucy, Anthony's sister, who inherited much of his estate after his death. Their close blood relationship may explain why they were buried near each other, deep within the ancient church. Even so, these conclusions remain hypotheses. The true story is still a mystery. Beneath the cold layers of lead and among the crumbling stone walls, the St. Bees man continues to lie in silence, carrying with him a story of war, identity, and death from a distant age. Mascad's grave, containing 1,000 plague victims, unearthed in the heart of Germany. Beneath the bustling modern life of Nuremberg, Germany, lies a dark memory that seemed buried for centuries. Yet on March 5, 2024, that past suddenly resurfaced when a shocking press release announced that archaeologists had discovered approximately 1,000 human skeletons in mass graves right in the city center. And the number might not stop there, as experts estimate that the total number of bodies in the area could exceed 1,500. This chilling discovery occurred during a survey conducted prior to the construction of new residential developments. As the first layer of soil was removed, skeletons gradually emerged, stacked on top of each other in a way unlike any conventional cemetery. According to Melanie Langbein, a representative of Nuremberg's Heritage Preservation Department, at least 8 mass burial pits were identified, each containing hundreds of bodies. This indicates that the individuals were not interred according to customary rituals, but were buried hastily over a very short period of time. So what could have caused such a large number of deaths at once? The answer almost certainly points to one of history's most terrifying disasters, the plague. At that time, with disease spreading rapidly, the living no longer had the time or resources to perform proper funerals for the dead. As death surged, mass burial became the only option to prevent the epidemic from spreading further. You see, Nuremberg, according to historical records, suffered plague outbreaks roughly every 10 years, starting in the 14th century. As a result, accurately dating these skeletons presents a significant challenge. To determine their age, archaeologists used radiocarbon dating. The results showed that some of the mass graves date to roughly the late 1400s to early 1600s. In addition, fragments of pottery and coins from the later part of this period were discovered at the site, further supporting this dating hypothesis. The team also uncovered a historical record from 1634 describing in detail the devastating plague that occurred between 1632 and 1633. This document notes that more than 15,000 people died, and nearly 2,000 of them were buried near the Sebastian Spittal area, an astonishing match to the current excavation site. Based on this evidence, archaeologists concluded that most of the skeletons uncovered likely belonged to victims of that deadly plague outbreak. Julian Decker, head of the company in Terra Veritas overseeing the excavation, said he was completely surprised by the discovery. Prior to this, there had been no indication that graves existed in this location. When the first skeletons appeared, he even considered the possibility that they were casualties of World War II bombings. However, after careful examination, all alternative theories were ruled out. Instead, he believes this could be one of the largest mass graves in Europe, with the total number of bodies potentially reaching 2,000 or more. This discovery not only opens a painful chapter in Nuremberg's history, but also gives us pause for reflection. Epidemics are truly terrifying, aren't they? Just by looking back at the COVID-19 pandemic in recent years, we can begin to understand the haunting experience faced by people in the past. And beneath the ground, thousands of skeletons lie in silence, a cold reminder of the price humanity has paid during its darkest periods. The Marquise of China's mummy remains intact after more than 2 millennia. Some archaeological discoveries are so astonishing that just hearing about them sends shivers down your spine. The story of the mummy of a marquise in China is one such case. Imagine this. After lying deep underground for more than 2,100 years, a human body was unearthed with soft skin, fully articulated joints, intact hair and eyelashes, and internal organs that were nearly undamaged. It almost sounds like a scene from a science fiction movie, but no, this is 100% real, and it stunned scientists around the world. In 2016, researchers officially published a detailed study of the Dai Lady, also known as Xin Jui, a woman who lived during the Han Dynasty between 206 BCE and 220 CE. She was the wife of a powerful marquis and one of the most perfectly preserved mummies ever discovered in human history. Remarkably, Xin Jui's body was not shriveled like typical mummies, but retained the appearance of someone who had just passed away. According to autopsy results, Xin Jui died at approximately 50 years old. She suffered from a number of ailments common among ancient nobility, including diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, gallstones, and notably arterial blockages. The immediate cause of death was identified as a heart attack, possibly the oldest documented case of cardiovascular disease in human history. Even in lives of luxury, people of the past were not immune to very modern health problems. The initial discovery occurred in 1971 when workers digging a shelter at Mawangdui Hill in Hunan Province, China, stumbled upon a large ancient tomb. They immediately alerted archaeologists, and the excavation revealed not only Xin Jui's body, but also a treasure trove. More than 120 sets of exquisite silk clothing, 182 lacquered artifacts, and hundreds of personal items, including cosmetics and hygiene tools. The tomb also contained 162 small wooden statues representing servants meant to serve her in the afterlife. What particularly challenges scientists is Xin Jui's burial method. Her body was wrapped in 20 layers of silk, placed in a mild acidic solution, and sealed within 4 nested coffins. The entire tomb was then covered with about 5 tons of charcoal and sealed with clay, creating an environment almost completely isolated from air and water. This prevented bacterial growth and preserved the body for thousands of years. Yet, despite extensive analysis, scientists still cannot fully explain why Xin Jui's body remained so perfectly preserved. The combination of silk, chemical solution, nested coffins, charcoal, and clay seems to have created a unique preservation formula that cannot be precisely replicated even today. For these reasons, Xin Jui is not just a mummy, she is one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. A woman who left the world more than 2 millennia ago still seems to whisper to us, humanity may know much about the past, but countless secrets remain unsolved. A 550,000-year-old human tooth discovered in France. Have you ever thought that the history of humankind can sometimes be told through the tiniest of objects? Not a complete skeleton, not a stone tool, not even a footprint pressed into ancient soil, but just a single old chipped tooth lying in silence for hundreds of thousands of years. And yet, this very tooth opens a door, taking us back to the moment when humans first set foot in Europe. At Cana de la Rago Cave in the town of Tautavel, located in the Eastern Pyrenees National Park in France, archaeologists discovered a human tooth dated to 550,000 years ago. Just the number alone is enough to give you chills. Even more astonishing is that, at that time, Europe was a harsh land, freezing climates and teeming with wild animals. Yet humans had already appeared and found ways to survive. This discovery is considered a crucial piece of evidence, supporting the hypothesis that humans arrived in Europe earlier than previously thought. Before this tooth was found, the oldest traces of humans in Europe were a jawbone unearthed in Germany in 1907, dating to approximately 600,000 years ago. In France, archaeologists had also previously discovered human bones around 100,000 years old. These finds, like scattered puzzle pieces, show that humans were present in Europe very early but lacked continuous evidence to paint a complete picture. What makes this 550,000-year-old tooth even more remarkable is its location. Cana de la Rago Cave was already famous in archaeology after the discovery of the Tautavel man, a Homo erectus, or upright man, dated to about 450,000 years ago. For many years, Tautavel man was considered a landmark in studying prehistoric humans in Europe. However, this newly discovered tooth is 100,000 years older, prompting scientists to reconsider the entire timeline of human evolution in this region. Initial analysis indicates that the tooth belonged to an adult, though the gender remains unknown. After more than 500,000 years, the tooth has suffered some decay, yet it still retains enough characteristics for researchers to extract valuable information. Human remains dated between 500,000 and 800,000 years are extremely rare in Europe. Every discovery, no matter how small, is therefore highly significant. This tooth helps fill a 300,000-year gap in the historical record. Archaeologists hope that, using modern analytical techniques, they can learn more about the biological traits, evolutionary relationships, and survival strategies of Europe's earliest inhabitants. A seemingly ordinary tooth carries within it the story of migration, survival, and the development of our ancestors. It reminds us that history is not always written in grand milestones. Sometimes, a single bone or an ancient tooth is enough to change how we view the past. And who knows? Beneath layers of earth and rock yet to be excavated, there may still be other silent witnesses waiting to be discovered, ready to continue telling the story of humanity's long journey across the earth. The Harpole treasure and the powerful woman forgotten for 1,300 years beneath England. Some tombs, when opened, carry not only the scent of ancient earth and stone, but also stories of power, belief, and human status in the past. The recently discovered tomb in central England is one such case. From a single sparkling gold and garnet necklace, archaeologists were able to trace back in time, revealing the image of a woman with a special status in Anglo-Saxon society over 1,300 years ago. Yes, you heard that correctly. At an archaeological site in the parish of Harpole, Northamptonshire, England, researchers uncovered an ancient necklace dating back approximately 1,300 years, crafted from gold, garnet, and various semi-precious stones. This find was quickly dubbed the Harpole treasure, after it was excavated in April and publicly announced in early December. Beyond its aesthetic beauty, the treasure holds immense historical significance, reflecting the role and influence of certain women in early medieval Anglo-Saxon society. According to a research team from the Museum of London Archaeology, the necklace was buried with a woman who died between 630 and 670 CE. In addition to the necklace, archaeologists also discovered a large silver cross, 2 intricately decorated ceramic jars, and a bronze dish, all indicating that the tomb's occupant held a very high status and was respected by her community. She may have been a spiritual leader, a princess, or even an abbess during a period when Christianity was gradually spreading across England. The necklace itself is particularly striking. It consists of 30 gold, garnet, glass, and semi-precious beads, hung adjacently and interspersed with ancient Roman coins. This combination not only reflects wealth, but also demonstrates the wide-reaching trade networks and cultural influences of the period. The jewelry was discovered during an 8-week excavation, and Levente Bense Balaj, who first uncovered the treasure, recounted that he noticed a rectangular central pendant while digging in an ancient rubbish pit at the site, a serendipitous moment that unveiled a whole buried chapter of history. X-ray imaging of the tomb revealed the silver cross decorated with an intricate human face. Organic material within the tomb preserved fragments of hair and skin, indicating that the burial environment once maintained delicate details. The ceramic jars, thought to originate from present-day France or Belgium, further support the hypothesis that this woman had connections beyond England. Researchers hope that molecular analysis of residue inside the jars will clarify their intended purpose. Remarkably, the skeleton in the tomb has almost entirely decomposed, leaving only a few tiny fragments of tooth enamel. However, the necklace and accompanying artifacts allowed archaeologists to confidently identify the tomb's occupant as a woman. In England, only a dozen or so tombs of high-status women have been discovered, and in some cases, similar necklaces were found. Yet, very few graves date earlier than the 7th century, as the Harpole treasure does. So you see, a single tomb, a necklace, and a story of power revealed after more than 1,300 years. From this treasure, we glimpse not only the beauty of gold and gemstones, but also the image of women who once held significant roles in ancient society, women whose contributions were, sadly, forgotten by history. A 500-year-old box exuding sweet fragrance in Norway's ice and the chilling truth behind it. Amid the endless white of northern Europe's snow and ice, something seemingly asleep for eternity emerged, stirring both curiosity and shivers. It wasn't gold or treasure, nor ancient weapons. It was a small wooden box, lying undisturbed for over 5 centuries within a glacier. The strangest part? When opened, it didn't smell of the musty decay of time. Instead, it released a gentle, sweet fragrance, as if the past had just happened yesterday. This wooden box was discovered in June 2021 at the Lendbreen Glacier in Norway, a glacier that is melting day by day. The box, made of pine wood and carefully bound with 2 leather straps, was almost entirely intact after over 500 years beneath the ice. Inside were the remains of a beeswax candle, the kind Vikings once used in their daily lives. You might be wondering, what makes a single candle special enough to be called a treasure? At first, researchers thought it was simply a forgotten box left behind on a journey, but as they analyzed it further, the story became more remarkable. According to the history blog, radiocarbon dating showed the box was made between 1475 and 1635 CE, meaning it had been hidden for 400 to 500 years. More astonishingly, when experts at the Museum of Cultural History in Oslo examined the beeswax, they discovered it still retained its natural sweet scent, an extremely rare phenomenon. Archaeologists believe the box was used by Vikings to store candles, lighting the path from the main farm to summer pastures where they grazed livestock in warmer months. A small detail, yet it opens a window into everyday life centuries ago. Because of this, the small wooden box is considered a research treasure, helping scientists better understand Viking life, habits, and travel routes. However, behind this exciting discovery lies a harsh reality. Since 2011, Lendbreen Glacier has become an archaeological goldmine, not because humans are digging better, but because the ice is melting faster than ever due to climate change. As the ice recedes, ancient Viking routes that were used thousands of years ago are being revealed, along with countless valuable artifacts. At Lendbreen alone, archaeologists have recovered over 6,000 artifacts. In November 2020, nearly 70 arrow shafts, shoes, textiles, and reindeer bones were excavated in the Jotunheimen Mountains, about 240 miles from Oslo. The oldest arrows date back to 4100 BCE, while the youngest artifacts are from the 14th century. Other finds included horseshoes, walking sticks, wooden pins, gloves, and even a small iron knife. Although this sounds like a boon for archaeology, experts are cautious. Archaeologist Regula Gubler warned that as ice melts, organic materials such as wood, leather, textiles, and birch bark deteriorate rapidly. Ice had served as a natural safe, protecting these items for millennia, and once gone, the artifacts' lifespans may be measured in mere decades. All of these discoveries take us back to the Viking Age, roughly 700 to 1100 CE, when Vikings left Scandinavia to sail to England, Ireland, and beyond. Initially welcomed, they later became infamous for raids, plundering, and violent conflicts. The word Viking in Old Norse means pirate, and their first recorded raid in 787 CE began centuries of brutal clashes with the Anglo-Saxons. A small wooden box, a sweet fragrance, yet behind it lies a long story of history, human life, and the high price we now pay for the Earth's changing climate. Chilling, isn't it? The giant stone traps of ancient humans. In the 1920s, during a routine patrol flight over the Middle East, pilots of the Royal Air Force accidentally noticed strange formations stretching across the ground. From the air, they looked like giant kites lying motionless in the deserts of Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. At first, no one understood their purpose. Over time, however, these mysterious kites astonished scientists even more when thousands of similar structures were discovered, spanning the Arabian Peninsula, Sinai, and as far as southeastern Turkey. These were neither drawings nor religious structures. In reality, the desert kites were giant stone traps, built thousands of years ago to hunt wild animals. Each kite was an elaborate structure, 2 low stone walls stretched from afar, gradually converging into a V or funnel shape. At the tip of the kite lay a round pit or earth enclosure, ranging from a few meters to several hundred meters wide. Some stone walls extended for kilometers, demonstrating the ancient builders' deep understanding of animal behavior and terrain. It wasn't until 2011 that a team of Israeli and American archaeologists found irrefutable evidence of these structures' true purpose. At a large pit in northeastern Syria, the endpoint of a kite, they discovered numerous bones of goitered gazelles, hoofed animals once common in the region, dating back to the 4th millennium BCE. This direct evidence confirmed that prehistoric humans used these traps to herd, capture, and slaughter gazelles collectively. The kite-shaped constructions were built as early as 8000 BCE, continuing through 4000 to 2000 BCE, making them older than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The ancient people did not build randomly. They chose flat areas between mountain ridges or dry riverbeds, where wild animals naturally traveled. In some locations, instead of earth enclosures, they dug pits 20 to 50 feet deep with sloping ramps designed to guide animals in. The ramps seemed to allow escape, but in reality, they prevented animals from gaining enough momentum to jump out, trapping them for hunters. So how did ancient humans capture entire herds without jeeps or modern firearms? They had their own methods. Hunting was not done individually. Groups of hunters worked together to drive the herd into the kite's mouth, funneling them toward the narrow end. Exhausted animals would fall into pits or fail to clear the barriers. Then the killing began. Meat was divided, hides removed, and all resources transported back to settlements, a fully organized and calculated hunting process. Surprisingly, this method of hunting goitered gazelles persisted sporadically into the 19th and early 20th centuries. Once abundant across the deserts of the Middle East, these gazelles now survive only in small protected areas, becoming symbols of the changing natural world under human influence. The desert kites, from an aerial mystery to living evidence of ancient ingenuity, reveal the cleverness, intelligence, and survival skills of prehistoric humans. In the harsh desert landscape, they created a stone hunting machine that operated without technology, relying solely on mind and patience, truly a remarkable achievement. Roman skeletons forgotten for thousands of years beneath an English hotel pool. A place once meant for leisure, a hotel swimming pool where guests relaxed after long journeys, was hiding dozens of ancient skeletons beneath its floor. Not just one or two, but the remains of men, women, and even children, lying quietly under the soil for nearly 2,000 years. This is the story of Newington Hotel, located in the Vale Hills area of England. During construction for a new building on the site, workers unexpectedly unearthed a series of skeletons directly beneath the old hotel pool. At first, it seemed like a random discovery, but when archaeologists got involved, the story took a far more intriguing turn. The skeletons were later dated to around 50 BCE, placing them squarely in the Roman period. Scattered around the site, researchers also found fragments of bronze spears, suggesting that this area may have witnessed violence and bloodshed in ancient times. While the scene might sound grim, experts were not entirely surprised. This is because the Newington Hotel had been built next to an ancient cemetery, originally excavated by archaeologist Wenham in the 1950s, one of the first officially documented Roman burial grounds in England. Furthermore, about 1,000 feet from the newly discovered site, excavations conducted in 2004 and 2005 had revealed more than 30 decapitated Roman graves. Many hypothesize that these individuals were gladiators, people forced to entertain the ruling elite of the time. That excavation project lasted 3 months and recorded a total of 75 graves. Notably, most graves were found very shallow, according to the York Archaeological Trust, indicating that many remains had been heavily damaged by medieval plowing and later 19th century construction. In other words, what we see today may be only a small portion of a much larger ancient cemetery. The condition of the skeletons of men found on the hotel grounds is particularly striking. Wenham observed that many showed signs of blunt force trauma, suggesting they had endured severe beatings. Some skeletons even bore marks that appear to be animal bites. Based on the size of the bite marks, researchers suspect large predators such as lions or bears, animals commonly used in Roman arenas. These details support the idea that this site was once the final resting place for gladiators, men and women forced to die for the entertainment of the elite. From this arises an unsettling question. If the new hotel is completed, would guests be comfortable sleeping above one of England's largest ancient cemeteries? How would you feel knowing that directly beneath your room lie the remains of people who lived and died thousands of years ago? Personally, I would be more than a little spooked. Mysterious Viking ship burial reveals ancient rituals. Did you know that for the Vikings, death was not the end, but the beginning of another voyage, where the ship became the final companion? It was this belief that made a 2019 archaeological discovery in Sweden truly astonishing. Swedish archaeologists excavated at Gamla Uppsala, a sacred site about 46 miles north of Stockholm. At first, they thought they had simply uncovered an ancient buried ship, but as the soil was carefully removed, a surprising truth emerged. Beneath the ship lay human remains, buried with ceremonial care and symbolic meaning. Among the two ships discovered at the burial site, one was nearly intact. Inside were the remains of a man, along with the skeletons of a horse and a dog. This type of burial shows that the ship was not just a means of travel, but also served as a specialized coffin. According to archaeologists, the burial dates from roughly 550 to 1050 CE during the Viking Golden Age. The grave contained numerous valuable grave goods. A sword, spear, shield, and a finely crafted comb were carefully placed alongside the deceased. These items were intended not only for the journey to the afterlife, but also reflected the social status of the individual. For the Vikings, ships were a luxury. Only those with significant power or status could own one, let alone use it for burial. Therefore, researchers believe that the man buried in this ship was far from ordinary. He may have been a leader, a battle-hardened warrior, or a person of great influence. The inclusion of a horse and a dog carries deep symbolism as well. These animals were closely associated with Viking life and warfare, representing loyalty and strength. Swedish archaeologist Anton Seiler described this as one of the rarest and most unique discoveries in the last 50 years. The find has provided valuable insight into Viking funerary customs and their worldview. To date, archaeologists have uncovered roughly 10 ships used for burials, each telling its own story about the person interred within. When people think of Vikings, they often picture fierce warriors and ruthless raiders terrorizing Europe. But Vikings were more than that. They were brave explorers, skilled merchants, capable farmers, and notably, individuals with creativity ahead of their time. Many of their inventions still hold value and influence today. So when I say that the ship at Gamla Uppsala is more than just a grave, that it is a window into a worldview where humans, nature, and the sea were deeply interconnected, I am not exaggerating. I am not. 8 perfectly preserved mummies found in a Lebanese cave. A silent cave, untouched for centuries. No chemical scents, no elaborate mummification rituals, yet inside, it holds bodies so well preserved it is as if time itself forgot to touch them. This is exactly what was discovered in Asi al-Hadath Cave, deep in the Qadisha Valley of northern Lebanon. In July 1990, during what seemed like a routine geological survey, a team of cave researchers unexpectedly discovered 8 human bodies scattered within the cave. But what stunned them was not the number, but the near-perfect preservation of these remains. Initial analysis concluded that these were 8 naturally mummified bodies, showing no evidence of artificial embalming. Experts identified the remains as belonging to 4 children, 3 adult women, a male skull, and an unborn fetus. All were preserved thanks to the cave's unique natural conditions: dry air, extremely low humidity, and a windless environment. This combination had unintentionally turned the cave into a time vault, keeping the human forms intact for nearly 800 years. Among the 8 mummies, the most remarkable is a baby girl who was only about 4 months old at the time of death. Researchers named her Yasmin. She was found lying on her back, her head resting on a smooth stone as if in deep sleep. Yasmin was dressed in 3 layered dresses, a blue one, a beige one underneath, and a darker beige gown on top. She wore earrings and a necklace, small details reflecting the love and care her family gave even in death. Around her body, scientists also discovered symbolic items: a lock of darker hair, a laurel leaf, almonds, walnuts, garlic, and onions. These items were clearly not random. They likely held spiritual significance, intended to protect the soul and ward off evil spirits. Notably, Yasmin was buried next to her mother, following a traditional Lebanese practice where children are placed to the left of the mother. Based on the associated artifacts, researchers determined that these people died and were buried around 1283 CE. All were members of the Maronite community, an ancient Christian group in Lebanon. The discovery of these naturally preserved mummies indicates that the cave was not merely a temporary shelter at that time, but may have served as a safe living and refuge space for the Maronites during a period of historical upheaval. Today, all 8 mummies have been transferred to the National Museum of Beirut for preservation and display. Experts employ strict measures to maintain the nearly 800-year-old remains, as even a slight change in temperature or humidity could cause rapid deterioration. If you ever have the chance, visiting the museum to see these remarkable mummies is an experience not to be missed. The mummy of the Altai princess carries a terrifying curse. In 1993, an expedition led by Novosibirsk archaeologist Natalia Polosmak uncovered an ancient tomb on a mound in the Ukok Plateau in southern Altai Mountains, near the border with Mongolia. Upon excavation, they discovered the mummy of the Altai princess. According to experts, the Altai princess was a woman who died around 2,500 years ago. Remarkably, her body was well preserved, providing scientists with invaluable insights into her life and death. Examinations revealed that she died in her early 20s. She suffered from breast cancer, which afflicted her for approximately 5 to 7 years. In addition, it appears that 3 to 5 months before her death, she fell from a horse, sustaining serious injuries to the head that affected her brain. As a result, during her final months, she was bedridden and unable to move independently. The Altai princess was buried alongside 6 horses, fully equipped with saddles and harnesses. Archaeologists also discovered the remains of 2 warriors, believed to be Pazyryk people, a nomadic tribe described by Greek historian Herodotus in the 5th century BCE. This suggests that the Altai princess came from a powerful and wealthy family, likely a princess or the daughter of a tribal leader. In September 2012, the mummy was transferred to the National Museum of Gorno-Altaysk, named after Anokin, after being preserved for years at the Novosibirsk Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography. Interestingly, while scientists work to unlock the mysteries of this 2,500-year-old mummy, many locals in Altai believe the Altai princess is their ancestor. Folklore holds that she sacrificed herself to protect the land from evil spirits. Locals also believe that disturbing her tomb angered her spirit, triggering natural disasters. For example, on September 27, 2003, a 6.6 magnitude earthquake struck Altai. Another strong earthquake shook the region on July 31, 2012. Many attribute these disasters to the curse of the Altai princess, believing she caused them to avenge the disturbance of her resting place. Scientists, however, have not been able to confirm whether the curse is real or merely coincidental. What do you think? Should ancient mummies like the Altai princess be excavated, or should they remain undisturbed? Could these mummies truly carry sacred or even terrifying curses? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The mysterious traces of a hominin. Have you ever thought that the story of human origins has already been fully written? That all of us are merely descendants of a single lineage from Africa? If you still believe that, a shocking discovery from the Altai Mountains in Russia, where ancient soil layers deep within a cave have preserved secrets for tens of thousands of years, might make you think again. At Denisova Cave, one of the world's most famous archaeological sites in the Altai region, Russian paleoanthropologists uncovered evidence of a prehistoric human species never known before. When they analyzed DNA extracted from the remains, an unexpected revelation emerged. 17% of the genome matched Neanderthals, but more importantly, 4% came from an unidentified hominin species, one that had never appeared in any fossil record. It was as if humanity had just been introduced to a new, mysterious, and elusive character in its evolutionary lineage. This discovery compelled scientists to return to the site, excavating deeper, older layers in hopes of piecing together the missing fragments of human history. And then another surprise emerged. During DNA analysis, researchers found that 6% of the Denisovan genome matched modern Southeast Asian populations, a truly astonishing finding. How could genetic traces from an ancient population in Siberian mountains persist in the DNA of people thousands of miles away in Southeast Asia? This could only have happened if Denisovans migrated or interbred with the ancestors of modern Asians, leaving a permanent genetic mark in the human lineage. From this evidence, academician Anatoly Derevyanko, head of the research team, reached a bold but well-supported conclusion. Denisovans were a subspecies of modern humans. They were not an anomaly or an evolutionary outlier. They were an independent branch that contributed to the formation of today's humans. The story doesn't end there. In a nearby cave, archaeologists also found Neanderthal remains, living at the same time as Denisovans. This challenges the long-held belief that Neanderthals did not inhabit regions that far east. Not only did these groups live near each other, but genetic evidence shows that they interbred, producing hybrid generations, a process researchers describe as interbreeding between human groups, which is now recognized as an essential part of human evolutionary history. From all these discoveries, a new understanding of human origins has emerged. It is no longer simply a journey from Africa to the rest of the world, as the once dominant monocentric theory suggested. Instead, Derevianko proposed a polycentric theory. At least 4 parallel evolutionary lineages contributed to modern humans. First, African Homo sapiens, then Neanderthals in Eurasia, followed by Denisovans in the Altai, and finally, an Eastern human group, the ancestors of modern Chinese populations. This theory is not just academic, it changes how we view ourselves, highlighting the complexity, diversity, and genetic intermixing present in every human cell. The discovery of Denisovans is considered the second most important finding in science after the Higgs boson, as it not only reveals a previously unknown branch of humanity, but also reshapes the scientific understanding of human formation. In recognition of this work, on June 12, 2013, academician Anatoly Derevianko was awarded the State Prize of the Russian Federation for his outstanding contributions in opening an entirely new chapter of ancient history. So, what do you think? Could it be that humanity does not come from a single origin, but rather from a far more complex story, where different lineages of blood intersected in the shadows of prehistory? Share your thoughts below. Perhaps the mysterious and shocking archaeological discoveries we've just explored are only a tiny fraction of the countless secrets that our planet still keeps hidden. Each finding opens a new, mysterious world full of questions that remain unanswered. Even though scientists may never want to witness such strange phenomena, it is precisely these discoveries that help us better understand the past, our history, and the ways humans have survived, fought, and evolved over thousands of years. And what about you? What do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with more fascinating stories.